Okay. Hey, Tyler, I'm so glad and delighted, really, that you could come to our Soulful Treasures event and that you're joining us this morning to tell us a little bit more about your work so we can get to know you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be a part of it, and I'm so excited to welcome all of you into my world because it's definitely not something that you would see out there on the mainstream, that's for sure.
No, but hopefully there will be more like you. So I can't wait any longer for you to tell our listeners what it is you do, what your work is.
Yes, so I am an animal psychic. So that's just the title that I call myself and go by. But there's so much more than that to what I actually do. So I actually use the animal human bond to curate an awakening. So yes, I deliver messages from the ones that love us the most, our four-legged friends, or maybe even three-legged friends. If you have one of those special pups or cats that only has three legs, they're not any different, but they definitely do hold three paws of your heart instead of the four, which I think is more special. But I do curate the awakening for a human through the eyes of your animal. So really what is happening is I am showing you exactly what your animal sees through their eyes and how they see you. Our animals show up as such a mirror or projector for us. Like I have a dog that I was going through some interesting things and she jumped off the bed and she twisted wrong and hurt her back. And I was afraid that it was IVDD because she's a Frenchie. And I was like, oh, she's so young. This is not happening. Like, oh my gosh. So we took her into the vet. I had to put her on kennel rest. And what ended up coming through to me is she was processing the amount of pressure I was holding, and I went in and I told her, I said, give it back to me. As soon as she gave it back to me, my back went into instant pain and she was fine. It was the craziest thing. So, really, just delivering the messages from your beloved fur baby that walks side by side with you, that gives you this unconditional love. And I help actually transform your life through your pet.
That is really something. This is that it's life. It blows me away that you're communicating with animals, but then that it's life changing, transformative work, um, and that includes for the owners. That is just that's really interesting stuff. I have to ask you, what on earth got you into this area? Did you always feel like you knew what animals were thinking or saying, or did you, how did this begin for you?
That is such a good question because I often reflect back on this. So, growing up, I always loved being at the pet store. I had no idea why, but this was like my playground. I loved watching the ferrets run around. I loved watching the wall of fish tanks where the fish would just swim back and forth. I loved, even though I'm not a fan of snakes, I loved to see the reptiles. And so I would beg, and I mean beg, my grandma or my dad to just take me to the pet store. And now that I'm older, I look back and I can see that that was just a breadcrumb that I was following, or a soul nudge is what I call it. And how this all transpired was I actually had two pups that I rescued back in 2019. They came through on my vision board. I was like, I want a French bulldog. Well, one turned into two, and I rescued these beautiful pups from Colorado, and they were my soul dogs. And in 2021, I was out of town and one was hit and killed by a car, and it was horrific. It cracked something open inside of me, though, that I didn't know was there. The amount of grief and the opportunity that grief gave me. And so after I processed her death, I ended up in Australia and I was doing breath work, did a full moon ceremony, and then on her death anniversary of 1 year, I was on the most easterly point of the mainland of Australia, and I said, Stella, if you're okay, and if I'm going to be okay, please send me a sign. And I kid you not, and out walks an Australian water dragon, which is all about where there once there once was war, there is now peace. And it was just this sudden rush of comfort that I felt. And so I got home from Australia after processing her death, and my second dog named Paris uh, was now on the decline, and I had to make the decision. And I remember one Sunday night, I told Paris, I said, Paris, if you're ready to go, just tell me, and I'll do it as comfortable, make you as comfortable as possible. And she goes, she didn't like say anything. And I didn't know that I was able to do this. But the next morning, I was at the gym. I had just finished arms, got on the treadmill, and I heard, I'm ready. So I sought out an animal communicator because I was doubting myself. I didn't know that that was her telling me. And so I ended up hiring an animal communicator and was like, hey, this is what's going on. She gave me some really great insight, told me how she wanted to go, how to honor her, and the time frame, which was really special. So I have this conversation with the animal communicator, and she's like, you're going to step on a rocket ship because your dogs have helped now put you on a rocket ship. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. Now looking back, it's the rapid acceleration of growth that has happened since they've both crossed over. So after she passed and I did this session with the communicator, fast forward a couple years, I'm in Bali for a spiritual retreat. And just before this spiritual retreat, I am actually having my own spiritual retreat with a friend who was from here in Utah that was a loan officer. She was a client. Well, she's a shaman. So we're actually doing a whole 7 day spiritual retreat with her just before we go do an actual spiritual retreat. And we are doing a ceremony or a water ceremony. And in this water ceremony, you are in sacred water with Mama Bali. And there's three fountains. The first fountain is you ask permission to be there, and she grants you the permission to be in Bali. The second one, she gives you a gift. And the third one, you give her gratitude, and then you go in, integrate, and meditate. And so I asked my permission from Mama Bali to be there. And then the second one, she gives me the gift of what's called the animal medicine vortex. And I was like, okay, this is fascinating because earlier in that day, I had this idea that I had never considered before. And I was like, oh, I need to open a 6 month container of animal medicine vortex. And I was like, okay, whatever. I have no idea what this means or anything like that. So this in this water ceremony, she's giving me this gift of the animal medicine vortex. And in the middle of me meditating and integrating, I hear these loud cicadas, like the loudest I think I've ever heard. And there's a ton of them. And it's just like this crazy amount of chatter. So the question that came through right after I integrated was, did that come with animal communication slash psychic abilities? And she goes, yes. I said, okay, that makes total sense because all of a sudden I'm hearing all this chatter and I can't decide what's going on in my mind. Like, is it mine? Is it them? And there's just so much because when it first came back on as like the remembrance, I was so confused because I was like, this is a lot. And then a couple days later, after I kind of start to think that I'm crazy and all of this, which never call yourself crazy when your gifts come online. Never, ever, ever. Because you may think you're crazy, but I promise it's totally normal. And I have come to find that out through the journey. So a couple days later, we are doing a glamping experience, and we're doing this dune buggy experience. And we're driving up the hill, and off to the left, there's a field of cows. One looked up at me and she goes, hi, my name's Molly. How are you? And I was like, what just happened? Like, I just heard a cow talk to me. This is insane. Like, no, no, no. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. Like I responded. And I'm sitting there questioning myself, right? And I'm thinking, I have lost my mind. And sure enough, I did not lose my mind. And then all of a sudden, here comes this group of people horseback riding. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that one in the front is going to be he's going to be a little cocky. And it was so interesting. I turned to my fiance and I said, that horse is going to be a jerk. Sure enough, he chewed right in and he's like, I'm in front of all of them because I'm the best and I'm the leader. And he had like this jockey bowl cut haircut, and I was floored because his attitude was out of this world. And I was like, oh, I knew it. I just had sensed it before. And that's how my journey began, is I started talking to random animals in Bali.
Wow, that's incredible. So you were just going to be there in Bali initially, just because of just for a spiritual retreat, right?
Yeah.
And then you had the opportunity to get this animal communication. What's it called?
Yeah, so I call it like animal psychic because I had been
Okay.
working with my psychic abilities in the past or throughout a shamanic course.
Right.
And so then it was so much more. But at first I was like, okay, animal communication is way easier to just tell people, like, oh, I communicate with your animals. I can hear what they're saying
Okay.
and I can tell you. So I do primarily work with the five clairs. So clairvoyance, clairsentience. My strongest is the hearing, the feeling, and the knowing, with the sight as well. And so I just was like, oh, this is so much easier just to tell people. And then when fast forward to May of this year, we were in Australia for another spiritual retreat. And I just was like, you know what? No, I'm going to own the fact that I am an animal psychic and I am doing so much more than just this basic communication session with the
Yeah.
pets. And so as soon as
Interesting.
I admitted that to myself, and I was like, that just sounds way cooler, anyways.
It does call it what it is.
Exactly. It's like why not just say that it is so much more than just animal communication, because it really is. And that as I've gone through and I've discovered these parts of myself as I've been on the journey with it and learning this piece of myself, I have opened up such a depth of a container within myself, but also with my clients. When my clients come to me and they're like, "Hey, they don't really know what to expect because they think that they're getting an animal communication reading. And yes, there's messages in there, but everybody and every time I finish a session, they're like, that was so much more than I expected, because they thought that they were walking in with their animal and they were going to hear these messages like, oh, I don't like my food, I don't like the water, and I don't like these treats. But what happens in my sessions is they're like, oh, my cat is having this problem. And so when I tune into the cat and I'm like, oh, your cat is actually processing these emotions for you. And they're like, wait, what? Like, how did you know that? And so I worked with a cat that actually has kidney disease. And looking up the spiritual meaning behind kidney disease was actually all about grief and this unprocessed fear and this fear of like getting close to people. And so before I had actually looked up the actual meaning of kidney disease in a cat through the spiritual lens, I was channeling all of this information. And he was like, oh, actually, yes, like in the last 5 years, I've lost X amount of people. And his cat was processing it for him. And he walked out and he was like, that was so crazy, but everything tracks and is spot on. And I was like, oh, this is super interesting. Like, you wouldn't know or think that our animals are doing that much for us.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Ah, hmm. I had heard
It's
before that sometimes, we should consider them like angels, that they're there to help us and that, but I never knew it went this deep.
Yeah, I mean, they do say our animals are angels without wings, and I do believe that. I
Mhm.
actually, so I've connected with animals that are also on the other side. And I do remember one, I connected with him just prior to him transitioning to the Rainbow Bridge. Except for in my brand, I call it the Bougie Bridge because our animals are bougie and they deserve the most luxury lifestyle. And the animals have told me it is pretty luxury up there. And it's not using luxury to fill a void, but I do believe that having both the luxury helps us become more connected spiritually. And so I connected to him before he passed, and he's like, I'm going to send the color yellow. Well, yellow is actually all about the solar plexus chakra. We have the seven energy centers, and the solar plexus is all about the identity and like this willpower. And when I told her that, she was like, oh my gosh, I've always had this problem in my life. And she's like, that makes total sense. And I ended up actually doing a full session with him just the other day, after he had transitioned. And he was still showing up as the color yellow for her, which is all healing that part of her solar plexus. And that is just so phenomenal that when our pet crosses and transitions, that they actually pick a space to help us heal where we need healing the most. When my Paris girl, when I helped her transition over to the other side, she sent the color purple, and that's all about the crown chakra. And in the crown chakra, that is your connection to God, source, creator, universe, whatever your definition is. And that is where I needed the most healing. I didn't have that realization until like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that little turkey literally was helping me heal my connection. And now look at what I'm doing is I am now connecting to a higher realm to deliver these messages for others to transform their lives through the eyes of their pet.
I think you need to change your title slightly from pet psychic to transformative pet psychic.
I love that. It's true.
You're conducting, you're getting some real transformations there. That is just an amazing thing.
And it is so rewarding. Like the other day, I worked with somebody who had hired an animal communicator. And so
Mhm.
many animal communicators really are just basic and they deliver very surface level information. And so she was skeptical because her experience was not good. She found me on Instagram and I was like, okay, I totally understand. Like, this is definitely scary, especially where you've had this moment where you don't know if I'm real or not. So I got on a call with her 15 minutes, and then she did kind of hesitate to book a little bit, and then she's like, I'm ready. So in the session, when she finally got on in the session with me, we're having a conversation and talking to her pet, and she actually had three pups on the other side. And I always ask the question, like, how do you show up for your parents now that you've transitioned? And like, what's the color or is there an animal? And one of them told me, which was such a random color, but it wasn't random at all, but it was teal. And she opens her front door and the color is teal. I had no idea. I'd never seen her house. And then she's like, my window shutters are blue or this teal color. My pillows are teal. And then he actually shows up as dolphins, which when I got that, I was like, that's so weird. Like, there's no way she lives close to a dolphin place. She's like, no, I live 10 minutes from the beach. And she showed me all these figurines of dolphins because she wanted to be a marine biologist and now she's a broker actually for real estate. And so it was really cool when that happened. But then she had the pup that was still here in the physical, and we were talking. And the animal gave me acupuncture because she's like, oh, is she happy, asking these questions? And I said, do you take your dog to acupuncture? And she goes, yeah, every Monday. And I was like, yeah, she really loves acupuncture because she gets a special treat after. And the way her jaw dropped when I said that, she's like, she gets a chewy that looks like a churro after every single acupuncture appointment. There is no way you would have known that because only four people know that. I don't know the four people. I'm now one of them because her dog told me about it. And in that moment, I rebuilt this trust for her to have the foundation of an animal communicator slash animal psychic where she's like, oh my gosh, like you are way beyond the real deal. Like you are so far beyond what I could have actually imagined. And she's like, I am so grateful because of that moment where it was an instant shift. But picking up on these subtle cues of like, oh, acupuncture, a special treat. And she's like, whoa, okay, okay, okay. This is crazy. So to get that information, she was like, oh, okay. I do believe you, and you are 100% accurate.
That's great. That is so great. And so now you have this probably very large practice expanding or what?
Yeah, so it's definitely expanding. And there's obviously it's my favorite thing. It's a playground for me. Like it I am the best of the best and I know that, but it's like you walk up to a castle and this castle is like, "No, like I promise this is exactly what you need." And then you step into the castle and there's a carnival. And this carnival is literally this transformation. So as I continue to expand my reach and get in front of those who have pets, or even those who have had pets growing up, that when maybe those pets aren't around and they don't have a pet now, but it's like I can use the animal from your past to help curate an experience and transformation as well. And so I'm I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly expanding. I have clients in Canada, Bali, Australia. So I am a worldwide trusted animal psychic that is now developing and delivering transformation on such a deep level that people have like they have no idea that their animal can provide such a big transformation.
Oh, this is just has gotten so expansive for you. That's just wonderful. And you are clearly right on point with your purpose in life. Because when we feel like we're in a playground when we're doing our work, that's our big sign, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Not that you didn't know that already.
Absolutely. So I actually pushed and pushed and pushed for 2 freaking years to build a coaching business because I have over 500 hours of training. I'm a certified neuro-linguistic programming trainer. I'm a certified somatic coach. I'm an advanced coach that can work with addiction, PTSD, and trauma. And I pushed and pushed and pushed. And I remember telling my partner, my fiance, if I was in alignment, this would be so much easier to make money. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then once we got home from Bali, a couple months later, and my friend from Bali was like, you have to go do 3 sessions. I kicked and screamed. I was like, no, that sounds terrible. Like, what are you talking about? So I was like, fine, I'll do it. I put it out on social media. And I said, hey, I'm doing 3 free sessions, whoever wants this. Well, three turned into 12, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But what happened is I did 1 session and I was like, okay, I don't know if that was good. Like, I had all of this self doubt. I'd be lying if I said that I've never doubted myself in this. Like, of course, it's a business, right? Like, I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm perfect all the time and I never have this self doubt. So, I waited. And then I went to a mastermind. And in that mastermind, I had the intention to move beyond the fear of being myself unapologetically. By the end of the weekend, that first session that I did, number one, I did not like how I did the session because she was not on the session with me. I just channeled the information. And again, by the end of the weekend, I got this Facebook message and she's like, that was so cool. I've always said this, this, and this. And I was like, oh. I did do something cool. And then I sent my link out and I filled my calendar for 2 weeks in less than 2 hours because every single person was like, I want in on that. And so once I took those steps, it like exploded.
That's wild. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to ask you, how can our listeners find you on the internet? You have a web page?
Yes, so bougieandbeyond.com, and that's Boujie, because I'm special and I like to spell things differently. And so Bougie and Beyond, and also on Instagram at Bougie Animal Chats. So Boujie Animal Chats. Um, that is primarily where I do make my face pretty well known through Instagram. I love Instagram. I did have to take a little bit of a break because it's interesting when you try to build a business off of Instagram. Nobody tells you, oh, you're going to start measuring metrics by likes and comments and follows and views and all of these things. And all of a sudden, like, it was just a minute where I was like, this is really where I'm at in my life, is I'm now starting to connect my success and my worth to Instagram. No. So I had to take a break, but I am back on social media again. And I do share stories that are really fun. I did do a session with a cat who was all about intergalactic and told her mom, you gotta go get, like, dive back into your fascination with intergalactic channels. And so I do share stories like that on Instagram.
Wow. I'm going to start following you.
I love it. Please do.
This is some of the most interesting and just phenomenal work that I've heard of. It's really incredible. Okay, well, I'm going to take it down a notch here and say, I always at these interviews always like to try to get a glance, a little more glance at the person on a personal level. So I always ask this question: what makes you laugh or play or feel most alive?
Beautiful question. I love it. So I've had to do a lot of work around my inner child and healing my inner child because my childhood was anything but fun and play. I grew up rather quickly and became an adult, became a parent pretty much to my parents, and just not the role a child should play. So I've done a lot of work on my inner child, and he is so fun, so silly. He just finds these random, like, he'll find random things that just bring so much joy. So in our mastermind group, we were sitting there and I opened a cupboard and I pulled out a stack of straw hats. And everyone's like, how in the world did you find that? Because nobody would have thought to open up a cupboard. And I'm just like, no, absolutely. Like, I want to see, I just am following these little nudges. Like, I'm going to just open this and see what's in there. Everybody had fun and was laughing. So my inner child is just so silly and so fun. And so him coming out and being sassy, and he just has the most fun. And so he's the one that makes me laugh. I also have, I don't know if you can hear her, but I have a dog named Daisy, which was actually my two soul dogs that crossed over their favorite flower. So she
Oh,
earned the name Daisy, but she is like super playful, super like, it's just this pure body of innocence. Now she's naughty, because she's a dog, but she does these little things that just crack me up. So one of the things is she hops like a bunny. And just watching her pure joy and her playful self come out, it is such a great reminder that life doesn't need to always be serious. And she is just this playful little bunny Frenchie that everyone is just, she's crazy, but everybody's obsessed with her. And then I have another one named Leo, and Leo is just like everybody, ever since I've gotten him as a puppy, everyone has always called him little man because he's like a little man in this dog's body, and just his like he gets these random spurts of energy that he's just the most playful. And when it just brings out my play. So my dogs definitely bring me a lot of joy, clearly. And then my
Good.
inner child as well.
Oh, that's great. I know, that's wonderful, the inner child piece, because not everybody is able to get to that. But and our pets generally are tied to a huge part of our happiness in life, I think, for most people. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're not, then that's sad.
It is, yeah. But for pet people, they certainly are. They're part of the family. They're highly important. Yes. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you stopping and talking with us today and letting everyone get to know about your work, which I think is wonderful,
Thank
as well
you.
as wow, amazing. And I'm looking forward to everyone getting to see more of it. And did you contribute one of the free gifts to the Soul Treasures giveaway? Okay. Do you want
I
to tell people what they're getting from you?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. So I did, and it is actually the Bougie Frequency Quiz. Now, you're like, oh, a quiz, fine, whatever. It takes less than 60 seconds, and it actually tells you the archetype between you and your animal. What archetype is your animal? Is it the oracle? Is it the mirror? Is it the healer? Is it the leader? And based on the questions you do, how you answer the questions, it will tell you based on all of on your percentage, like, oh, yours is the healer. And then you're going to get a custom ritual based on that specific archetype for you to do. It doesn't take more than 5 to 7 minutes a day to do, and it is these subtle moments. So in that, yes, the quiz is cool and all, but it's really all about those rituals that you now get to do and take beyond with your pet. And I promise you, they will transform your life. Even in a quick 5 to 7 minutes, just taking that time, because all your animal wants is presence. And so when you give them that presence, it's your bond deepens. And so in this giveaway, I have done the quiz, and that's just the fun piece. I mean, it's all fun, right? But the fun piece is like, oh, I want to know what my archetype is with my pet. And then on top of that, you will get a ritual. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Based on your score, yes, you're going to have one archetype, and that is your primary archetype with your pet. You will get a ritual for that one. You're also going to get a ritual for all the other ones as well, so you can actually build and develop the mirror, the leader, the heart, and the oracle. So depending on your primary one, and then the last or the other three as well, you will have a custom ritual based on each of those.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. So everyone gets to go ahead and begin experiencing your transformative work.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Wow. Well, thank you so much again, Tyler. We're really grateful to have you with us for this event.
Thank you so much. I'm
Really
so grateful to be
appreciate
here.
it. Okay, wonderful. Well, I wish you all the best. I know it's going to continue to grow and grow and expand.
Yep, I do agree.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Yes, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.